Alright, so as we await for these finals, the Celtics and whatnot is already there, and when Dallas is coming, and it's gonna be a whole event. Uh, but until that time, there's things that gotta be filled up, and during this is basically, so the Celtics is basically on a chill time right now. Uh, the whole topic has been like Tatumness, Brownness, the team, whatever. We haven't really been able to really get into full on discussion. But I was like, came up, I was like seeing like an episode of like Get Up, uh, and just people in general, because this has been a thing all the time about. I was like, it's like earlier in the week we had the Jaylen Brown like underappreciated. Did he won the award? And so we'll see how that goes. If he feels any more of that any longer. But now it's at the point where it's Jayson Tatum being disrespected or not even overlooked, but like taken for granted or and like okay, so this came about because John Hart talked about like Derek White being one of the Celtics' most impactful players, and to me, I totally understand what he's sort of saying. I don't think it's a slight at Jayson Tatum. Uh, just because I'm like, to me, I was like, I get what he's saying, where he's like, White hits the shot when you need to. I was like, he defends when he needs to. He putting the team on. I was like putting the team in all the offensive spots and all these things. And it's not to say that Tatum isn't the best player, but impactful. It's like, yeah, but does he? But I was like, to me, impactful sound like it's a player that needs to do the little thing. It would sound like it needs to be your role player. It don't sound like your main player. Like, yes, do you want your main player to do some of those things? Yes, but that sounds like a role player thing of like doing the right things, the small things in order to make this whole thing go. But going into that, talking about Jayson Tatum in general, and is he just being like disrespected constantly? Yeah, to a degree, because for him being like such a great player, I was like, he's pretty much one of the few that I think gets dismissed. Like, not even that the fact that he gets talked about in a certain way, because you can say that with a lot of his top stars, but he just sort of gets like a, mm. But at the same time, I don't think it's not warranted. Like, he's been talked about like like the next one, the golden child. I was like being this whole thing come from Duke and stuff like that, and it's like okay, cool. And then like within like his what was it like his second year or something like that, that he basically went basically was taking the team up fight. I was like they was competing head to head with LeBron James and stuff like so I'm like he's been in a lot of these hella spots in the playoffs and all this other stuff for a long time. So on one hand, yes, is he still young? Yes, I was like, are they still figuring stuff out? Yeah, sure, but also I think that he's getting the same amount that we would for somebody that had reached this pinnacle or this peak of places quite regularly and just never got over it. Like, I mean, like I was like, I'll take out LeBron because LeBron's sort of a separate case. But to me, I'm like, Joel Embiid get crushed all the time. I'm like, hell, we still crush KD. Like, so I'm like, he's getting crushed like a star player does. That if you keep going to whether conference finals or it's like you don't make it there when or like why you didn't make it there. If you're supposed to be the best player, you keep like the thing is that yes, he was because like first he was consistent enough the last couple games, but let's also not act like how in the game one against Indiana, I was like he sort of was like really hot and then he just sort of like just was nothing until like the overtime. Or how Jaylen Brown went off. I was like so I was like Jaylen Brown to me, I was like, no, he got that award for that series and all this other stuff. But Tatum been good. He's been right there. But I was like, let's not act like Tatum hasn't had any. He's had games that when you're the top player, you just can't have. You can't be MIA. You can't have expectation of being like, you should at least compete here for to be in this conference championship, and you don't, or you get your ass beat, or and that's. But I'm like, he's the top star. That's what he gets. So I don't think he's necessarily getting disrespected. I was like, being talked about between Tatum team, Brown's team, or whatever. To me, that just sort of just kind of, I was like, that's more giving credit to Brown than it is taking away from anything from Tatum, because it's kind of like, to me with Tatum, we like this is one of my things, like once you give somebody a label or something like that, it is sort of hard to like remove that. And the thing is, once you give somebody this level of great before they really, like, we just gave this team to Tatum, not realizing that yes, he's improved a lot, especially on defense, and him, like, when he gets rebounds and stuff like that, like way more than he was like a couple years ago. But we also sometimes ignore Jaylen Brown and how he consistently got better and better, where he's like the defensive guy that wants to take on the best player. I was like, he'd improved his jump shooting and all this other thing, to where it's like, it's not really a knock that you question if it's Brown's team to Tatum. It's really just showing that Brown has stepped his game up so much like that. But also, we just gave it to Tatum, not. And it's like one of them things too, where you just kind of, it's like, Tatum is great, but will we, and this is one of the things where you won't really know, where it's like team or player in a lot of situations, because you could only do as good as your team is, but it's like for instance, like Devin Booker. Devin Booker's a really good player, but how really good is he? And do you blame that the team around him not that great? When it's like, yeah, but he gotta, if you want to be that great player, you gotta bump it up. It's sort of the same thing with Tatum, where it's like, the team is really good around him, so it's like, he doesn't have to be great. He will be great, but if he's not, the team is still fine. Look, you can't knock him for having a good team. Uh, but if it was anywhere else, would we see him the same way? Um, Almost like a Paul George, where it's like, yeah, he could be the lead man for a team, but is he also better if he's like number two? And maybe I just threw some disrespect at Tatum by saying that comparison, or saying that Tatum number two. But my point is that I think Tatum getting a good amount of criticism. I think that when you're the top player on a top team in and year out, to me, I was like, I did the youngness thing. I just don't. I think is an excuse, and the reason I say that is because I think the youngness thing can be said for somebody like Ant. I don't think it can be said about Tatum. Just like, hey, you're not gonna give Luca the young card, are you? And him and Tatum pretty much about the same age. No, you're not. So that's why you can't use that as an excuse or a reason. Um, but no, I was like, I think if anything, if we just say Tatum's a bum, or Tatum, or you suck, something like that, then yes, that's disrespectful. But I think the criticism we get him of, like, you need to win a championship, you need to do this here. If not, then nobody gonna care the future years, all that stuff. I'm like, that's what a star player gets. We did Giannis. I was like, Jokic would have got it if he wouldn't have got it last year. I was like, Ant in 2 years gonna do it. Luka probably would get his start, and now if he wouldn't be winning, no, he's up there. I was like, to me, the disrespect comes with the MVP type stuff. Cause he gets in all NBAs. The MVP, that's the where nobody wants to really put him past like third or fourth, on a lot of cases. Or, that's to me where the disrespect comes from. But other than that, he's properly respected. Yeah, I know. I made that word had that situation happen. But anyway, I don't know, just a semi rant of them when how they were talking about it and how people just sort of like, I'm like, if you're fine at the way you come at Tatum, it's fine. He's a star player. Anyway, until we see how this final goes. Out.